Hello, my name is Angus Patey, and in this 10 to 12 minute video we're going to talk about some of the things that you can do to take control of color for your wide format and sign printing. Just a quick brief overview. Colormanagement.ca is a Toronto-based company that offers the services of color calibration and profiling, and we also offer the ability to teach you how to take control of color, and that could be an on-site visit, it can be a remote service that we can log in and go through with you some of the things that can be done. Ideally, these things need to be done on-site. So let's take a look at some of the things that we can do. First, we want to stop this. We want to stop the frustration of having to deal with reprints and not matching color in the first try. The ultimate goal is to be able to make money, to be able to print effectively, and for your machines to work as you expected, and that is to be able to print the color that you see on screen. That is the Holy Grail. So, why invest in color management? Simply to be more efficient and productive. It's not going to make your images better than they are, it's just going to make them more consistent and more accurate to what they should be. So, all in all, some examples of that would be to be able to move jobs between multiple printers. One of the things that the human vision is very susceptible to hue shifts. So if you have a blue color that is cyan blue on one printer and more purple on another printer, a customer is not going to accept that as being a match because the hue is different, the color is different. But if you were to create an ICC profile for the same media on two different printers, and even though they have a different gamut and slightly different printing technologies, they will have a visual match because the blues will be the same hue. And that means that a customer will not see the difference in those two, even if the saturation is slightly different. Our eyes are not as susceptible to changes in saturation, but they are very susceptible to changes in hue. So as I say, if that blue goes a little bit purple on one printer, a little more cyan on the other one, the customer is going to reject it. But with proper color management and custom ICC profiles for both devices, you can get a color match on two machines. You should be able to match color within about 95%. The industry standard is that most people with downloading profiles from various different sources or using a profile for a similar media, you're going to get a match about 80% of the time. It's that last 15% where you're spending usually 30% of your time. A lot of people waste a lot of time on that last 10 to 15% trying to get a color match out of something that either they can't and they don't know why, and they're struggling to try and find out what is the best match and they're just chasing their tail, or they're just constantly adjusting for a printer that's changing because you're not recalibrating. There's lots of reasons, but a lot of people spend a lot of time chasing color. So we want to be more productive and more efficient. We also want to be able to match color on a job that was printed in the past. A customer brings us a banner today and says, I want you to print this. Then they want to print 5 more in 3 months. You need to be able to match that banner again. You don't want to spend time going back and having to fix the file and reverse engineer it so it matches the old file. That's a waste of time. We want to be able to predict on screen what it's going to look like on the final output. I sometimes call this giving the bad news early, but unfortunately our screens, when not set up for soft proofing, will show you colors and black density that just isn't possible on a printing device. But if we invoke soft proofing in Photoshop, then we have the ability to see more accurately how that is going to print on your device. And hey, maybe we can go home on time and get the barbecue going as summer is here. So, one of the most efficient and simplest forms of color management is monitor profiling calibrating. There's lots of software that it's out there. At colormanagement.ca, we are very heavily invested in the X-Rite product. We really believe that X-Rite has some of the best color management solutions and hardware. They make it very easy for somebody who's a pro consumer with products like the Color Monkey, and they have the X-Rite i1 level of products for the pro consumer or the hobby, not the hobbyist, but the high-end clients. Depending upon what it is that you're looking to do, there's a product within a price point and either a very simplistic product or a very advanced product. But I really like the i1 products and stand behind them quite a bit. So, monitor profiling. It's very fast to do. It takes about 15 minutes. You'd only need to do it every few months. Reduces reprints because now you'll be able to see more closely what's happening on the final output, so you can make adjustments if need be before you print. You get consistency between multiple monitors in different locations or different monitors, so that gives you that consistency factor. And the software for X-Rite, their license is such that you can load the software on multiple machines within one location and just move that device around, and that is covered in their software licensing agreement. So you don't need to buy software for every station. You need to buy one. Spot colors are one of the most challenging parts of the business because the nature of them, right? I mean, if we try to print a busy image like this, our eye moves all over the place. I'm sure as I did this, you're now looking at all different places, and it's very easy to print this image because there's no reference value for what these jelly beans should look like, and who's going to say that that jelly bean is too green or too whatever, right? We don't have a reference for it. But when we have a branded spot color, that color has to be right, and when it's not right, you need to know that you've done everything possible to make it as accurate as possible to get the highest possible color match as you can. Now, what dictates the highest possible color match? Having an accurate profile. Having that profile set up by an expert. Obviously, we know what we're doing when it comes to setting ink limits, linearization, per channel ink limits, and ICC profiling, how to set up the parameters of the ICC profile with GCR in a way that will maximize the gamut of that device. One of the things that I find that the media manufacturers, when they build profiles, they tend to err on the side of conservative when it comes to ink limiting and per channel ink limiting. And often the cyan and the magenta are reduced so that we don't have too much ink on the paper. But if your printer can take a higher ink load, we can increase that chroma, increase the saturation of those channels when we're building the profile to give you a bigger gamut. So your profile that's built by a color management consultant could have a higher gamut than the ones that are being downloaded from various different sites for various different media manufacturers. And we can also incorporate ink savings into that profile. Even though we've increased the gamut, we can introduce a GCR and a black curve that will pull out some of the CMY when you're printing so that you're not using as much ink. So believe it or not, we can build a higher gamut profile, putting down more ink and save ink. It sounds like a contradiction, but it's true. All right, moving on. There are ways to handle spot colors, and Onyx has one of the best tools in the new version 11. It's called Swatch Books. And Swatch Books takes away all the guesswork of trying to send a series of swatches to your printer and to try to evaluate the closest match. We know that if we send a Pantone, we may not get the best color that that media and printer can do, especially if you're not using a custom profile. So in that case, sometimes you have to go back and create a swatch book in Illustrator and just finagle with it for hours. This way, you just measure it, or you take an actual Pantone color. In this case, it's Pantone Red 032, and it will build the chart for you, and it'll send it to the printer, and you can look at that and say, okay, this swatch is the best, and if I was to zoom in there, it would tell you what the CMYK values of that are, and you can use that, or it'll just update that Pantone value for that media. It's very slick and very easy to get color matching with Swatch Books. If you're using an older version of Onyx, then as it's been introduced in version 11, this could be a reason to upgrade just by itself because it's a really great tool. Versaworks gives the ability to edit spot colors. You can go into Versaworks and edit the actual values. Obviously, Versaworks is not as advanced a RIP when it comes to spot colors as Onyx. Versaworks is really the RIP that's supplied with the roll-in printers. Does a great job for most people, but sometimes you need to move out of Versaworks and into a higher a RIP with more capabilities, and there are other RIPs like Onyx that you could upgrade to get stronger, better control of your color. But it depends on what your needs are, and obviously every RIP has a place. Spot colors and maximizing your color tables. The goal here is to print this image to your printer. So if you want a copy of this file, you can send an email to info@colormanagement.ca, just like our website. If you go to our website, contact us, there'll be emails there which you can send us a request for the spot color test file, and we will send this to you in a PDF form. You send this to your RIP and we evaluate it. So what are we looking for? We're looking for linearity. We're looking for balanced grayscale. We're looking for it to be neutral. We don't want to see a blend that has a cast. Because this blend is made up of 4 colors, a properly profiled calibrated printer will look neutral. And again, neutrality is a bit subjective, but you can tell if it's red. But also make sure you view this under daylight. I've seen some printers where I view them under the fluorescence and they go a little pink. If I take it to a window and they look neutral. So ideally you want to look at it under daylight, because a lot of stuff is being printed for outdoor signage, and that's where it's going to be viewed, but it's also the most accurate light. We're not going to get into lighting right now in this seminar, but that is part of it. Now this file is set up with Pantone colors on the top and a CMYK build on the bottom. When you print it, you should see a very big distinction between the top and the bottom, and the top row should be more accurate to the Pantone. And in the actual file I'm sending you, it does have the Pantone names within the file. So you'll see them. It'll say the actual Pantone number on the file, so you can see it here. I just didn't do it. So it's a great test file to test how your RIP is handling spot colors, and is it seeing the spot colors that are being sent to it, so that you know that you can send spot colors as a spot color in the file as opposed to a CMYK build. Okay. Custom ICC profiles. They're very, very powerful. Once you set up your system with a custom-made ICC profile, you will then hit that holy grail of 95% of color matching. Very, very powerful. Very, very important. If you're looking at printing consistently and getting in and out with jobs, then that's one of the best ways to do it. And we offer the service for pretty much every RIP that's out there. There's not many RIPs that we've come across that we can't build an ICC profile for. These are the 3 that we work with more regularly, but if you have another one like Colorburst or Scanvec, we absolutely can help you with that. So give us a call and we'll figure out something. Printer relinearization, recalibration, both mean the same thing. And the concept here is to bring your device back to a baseline. Okay, is to compensate for drift, and every printer will change over time. So just because somebody comes in and builds a custom profile for you in 6 months, if it doesn't look any good or doesn't look the same, then there's not much value to that. So one of the things that a lot of customers are investing in is the Ione device. We'll talk a little bit more about that, but the Ione Pro 2 is a great device for being able to relinearize your device afterwards. And again, it helps compensate for device drift. It needs to be done on a fairly regular basis, and you can evaluate the printer relinearization by printing this test form. This is another one that we use for doing the weekly evaluation. So what we do is we set up a customer with a properly profiled media, and then we leave them with this test file. We say print this every month or every week on a regular interval, and just write down the date when you printed it. And then start to look at them over time and say, okay, I'm starting to see a drift at around the 3 or 4 week range is when I start to see that my color changes. So now you have a target for recalibration. We now know that this particular printer needs to be recalibrated about once a month in order to keep it safe, keep it consistent, to be safe. So you could even back it up and go 3 weeks. That way you're not, you're getting it before there's too much of a change. So that's up to you to try and determine what that time frame is. As I say, the X-Rite Ione Basic Pro, it comes in 3 levels. There's a basic, there's a photo, and then there's the CMYK match version. And that version has everything in the kitchen sink. It has CMYK, it has RGB profiling, projector profiling, everything. The Ione Basic Pro doesn't come with any software for profiling. It only allows you to do monitor profiling, and it assumes that you have the ICC profiling software in your RIP. So it really depends on what software RIP you're using, and we have to dictate which package of the Ione you need, because we need to know if you have the capability of building a profile or not. A lot of customers will just do the relinearization, so they just need the Ione Basic because the software will send the charts from the software and you just measure them within, say, an Onyx or EFI or Scanvec and all of those. The Ione Pro allows you to do monitor profiles on laptops, on CRTs if you're still using it, LCDs. It integrates with a lot of the other software like the ISO software, the Colorize software. Another great feature is within a lot of the RIPs, Onyx especially, is you can take a measurement of a specific color. It could be anything that you have that a client brings you. It could bring a swatch. They could bring you a pen. They could bring you anything, a label, and you say, okay, we need you to match this color. No problem. You take out your I1, you take a measurement of it. That LAB value is then loaded in the RIP and is used for color matching to match that color. It's very fast and very effective. So that is the conclusion of our seminar. And I want to thank you very much for taking the time to listen to it. If you are interested in any color management information, if we can help you with profiling and calibration, the number is there. Our website is colormanagement.ca, and we're more than happy just to discuss color with you. If there's anything that comes up, either email us. Again, my name is Angus, and my email is angus@colormanagement.ca, or give us a call. We look forward to hearing from you. Thank you very much.